Good morning, everyone. My name is Bala, and I'm here presented my ongoing research on robotic models to accelerate green transition in Europe. Let's get so a little bit about the background. So we all know that the global population is expanding exponentially. We are still dependent on the possibility of essential and still a source of energy. A little bit on the numbers. So the greenhouse gas emissions are spread out based on industry. It's important to know that the transport industry alone contributes to 25% of the total greenhouse gas emissions since 2019. And out of this 25%, 70, more than 70% comes only from road transport. And of this, more than 70%, almost 30% comes from heavy duty trucks, and 11% comes from light duty trucks. Some background information about Finland. Almost 85% of goods are transported in Finland by road. About the goals, so in 2030, Finland plans to reduce 50% of its transport emissions. By 2045, it plans to reduce 100% of the transport emissions. By 2025, Finland plans to become a neutral economy. But based on real-time numbers, it's estimated that by 2030, only 25% international truck emissions will be done, and only 31% of truck emissions will be done by 2045. Basics for transportation planning. We all know that transportation planning is important for our economy, and if we apply macro-level planning techniques, then it will be better. For example, by application of population figures, capacity building can be done. Similarly, fuel transport is also important for the economy to move goods, and plan for polluting carbon and flow on the road network, and it lead to operational flexibility and availability. And if it's not planned, it will lead to very high costs and because of growth and competitiveness of the economy. For similar freight transport modeling, freight transport emissions can be reduced by efficient use of data and by digitalization of logistics. It can be further reduced by using multiple transport models and by acquisition of variables such as the freight traffic volume, the types of transport vehicles, time management, energy generation, and use. It's important to know that freight transport modeling is part of future studies that can help in prediction and planning distribution. So, sequential four-step model used for passenger transport was really defined for freight demand modeling as the line of market was provided economic activities, distribution for modeling the freight flows. Model splits is for assigning the freight flows to different modes of transport, and assignment is to convert the freight flows into vehicle units and then assigning them to different road networks. Freight transport models are associated with these actors here. So producers are basically the ones that make the goods move. Shippers are the ones who manage the movement. Carriers are the ones who haul the goods on the roads. Hauling companies are the ones who manage the fleet. Consumers are the ones who demand the goods to be moved and thereby cause the transportation demand. And road planner is the one who provides services for road maintenance and repair. So based on all this, we plan to understand through this paper how to integrate electric freight vehicles in the future national road freight model of Finland. And for this, we plan to identify and describe the existing road freight transport models and the road freight traffic flows in different European countries. So for this, we identified the current road freight transport models, how they are developed, their uses, And then we tried to understand how electrified road freight transport can be modeled to strengthen green transition by adoption of electric freight vehicles. We used a method of literature review, and we scoured through the Scopus database using these keywords here. And using inclusion and exclusion criteria, we came to only 15 journal articles. From these 15 journal articles, we found that we have the national freight model of Norway. So it optimizes the shipment sizes, transport chains, and transit points for reducing associated costs. The components that go into the model are transport demand, which is basically the commodity flows between the supplier and the end users. The network model is the infrastructure for all the transport modes. The cost functions are the associated costs, and the optimization is the best possible choice based on the shipment size, the frequency, and the transport mode. The second one, what we found was the transport model, national transport model of Austria, VMO. This is basically for passenger part as well as for freight part, and the model aims to model. This model aims to model all transport relevant for transport flows on Austrian infrastructure, and the output generated includes the generated trips. So basically, there's the origin destination matrices to which shows the mode of transport, the purpose of transport, the population group that is involved in this trip. Then we have the distribution of key variables based on the transport distances and the time. And we have the transport performance for freight and passenger transport in terms of tons kilometers and passenger kilometers. Then again from Norway, we have the stock flow model. So basically it differentiates all the vehicle types into 7 parts. It includes vehicles that run only on road, and no two-wheelers are included in this model. The inputs that go into the model are the vehicle class, the weight of the new vehicles from the base year until the year 2050, the powertrain technology, and what comes out is the annual vehicle stock, the vehicle kilometers driven, ton kilometers hauled, powertrain's energy consumption and emissions. Then we have trans tools from the EU. It was developed in 2004. It's an integrated transport policy tool, and it's used in TEN-T's development and policies. It supports transport forecast, infrastructure planning, and policy analysis. It supports the HIGH tool, another model that's used by the EU, developed in 2015. It was used for strategic high-level transport policy assessment to analyze policy scenarios. The second research question that we had in the paper was how these models are developed. So the first method that we found was that the classic road freight transport model was redefined using 3 other models. Excuse me. So the classic freight transport model designs and evaluates actions and policies while considering different, very interrelated variables. And it was redefined using these 3 models: supply chain choice model, spatial general computable equilibrium models, and the hypernetwork model. Then we have the TRM survey from France, which is basically the domestic road freight survey, and it collects information which are divided into 3 targeted information based on location of loading and unloading, category of goods transported, reported ton and ton kilometers. And we have the sampling information, which states the statistical weight of each truck, contextual information regarding the age and type of vehicles, activity of transporter, and region of registration. And lastly, we have from South Africa methodology, which they use for modeling their national trade flow model. So the surface freight the surface freight flow market space is based on four definitive freight flow market segments or the freight typologies, so corridor, primary, rural, and metropolitan. And this, along with the annual traffic counts, are used to form South Africa's national road freight flows. The third question, or part of the second question, were what are the uses of these road freight models? We found that they are useful for policy making to assess the impact of policies to form new policies for optimally using freight transport. It's also used for development of infrastructure to develop policies related to infrastructure, to conduct cost-benefit analysis for making decisions regarding development of the infrastructure, and to conduct integrated planning for national infrastructure development. In terms of mode of transport, vehicle type, and fuel type, it's used to make informed decisions on the investments based in certain transport modes to improve vehicle utilization and the fuel type, fuel efficiency. It's used to move, can be used to move vehicles to alternative transport modes and lower the use of fossil fuels and estimate the future vehicle fleet requirements. In terms of demand patterns, market and schedules, it's used to understand the spatial location, demand patterns, structure the market, and understand the schedule of the goods vehicle fleet. The last question we had was how to understand or how to accelerate green transition by modeling electric freight vehicles in road freight transport models. So what was understood is that by combining road freight transport models along with the scenario-based approach, policymakers can understand the role of electrification in the road freight transport, and this can lead them to promote decarbonization of road freight transport to achieve environmental and emission reduction targets, and to plan and develop charging and refueling infrastructure. This paper is a part of a larger project called the 6O, which is to produce, the aim is to produce a roadmap for promotion of electrification of trucks in Finland. And in the future, the project would lead us to make the national road freight transport model for Finland to facilitate green transition. And with this background information from this paper, we plan to take this forward by doing a systematic literature review with an expanded inclusion criteria, not just using journal articles, but also using policy articles. So practical implications are basically the uses of the road freight transport model. So it'll act as a decision tool for policymakers to promote use of electric freight vehicles which includes BEVs and FCEVs, and deciding optimal locations for charging and refueling infrastructure. As I think you must have gathered, the limitation of this study was that we found only 15 journal articles from our literature review. That's why we plan to expand our search to policy articles in the future. Key takeaways. So we found 5 current road freight transport models, 2 from Norway, 1 from Austria, and 2 from the EU level. In terms of development of road freight transport model, we found that redesigning the classic road freight transport model was done by combining 3 mentioned models here. And the purpose of road freight transport models are to develop good policies, to develop infrastructure, to understand the demand patterns, to structure the market and the schedules, and to choose the mode of transport, and to choose a proper mode of transport, vehicle type, and fuel type. In terms of integration of electric freight vehicles and road freight transport, it's necessary. The models make it necessary for policymakers to understand the role of electrification, and it will help them design policies to decarbonize and to reduce emissions in the transport sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got a few minutes to take some questions. Any questions from the audience?
When you're going to be doing your systematic literature review, are you going to confine that to the academic literature, peer review, because there's such a vast amount of great literature in this area, and because I've reviewed journal papers for people who've done SLRs, I'm always concerned that they don't look at the huge quantity of literature written by professional organizations, consultancy companies. So are you going to include that?
Yes. Yeah, because the journal articles that we found were only 15. So we are moving, we'll try to analyze some government policymakers, some documents from them, from different European countries, maybe some companies and consultants.
Great. That's good news. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, then just one other question for me. So you've had a look at these models, they're current models based on historical and logistics approaches. Do you think the models need to change significantly to cope with electrified light, or they are pretty much usable in their current state?
I'm sure that they are making changes at the time goes by. That's why internet control does not have any transport model. They see that there is a need, and that's why there is the project initiated by the government. So yeah, I suppose we change over that. So I think the models that we use by